Hi there, this is Katie Groves, and in this video I am recording outside, so pardon the background noise. This is going to be another video therapy video in which I talk about my current process, what I'm doing right now in this moment to heal. Right now I am releasing some trauma bonds in a 3-year-old part of myself who is made to believe that when our mother raped us, we were raping her. This child did not understand what rape was, but was in an incomprehensible amount of pain and confusion, not only from the assault, but then when our mother would act as if we had done the assault to her. So what we're going to do is we're going to plant our feet on the ground and breathe in deeply. Pardon if the camera shakes. We are going to hold this inner child in a space of inner peace. We're going to comfort her or them and give them lots of love. And we're not going to speak to them because they do not speak, do not know any words. We're just going to hold them in this space of inner loving parenting. And we're going to ask them to release their pain. Their pain uncoils and spreads through our body like poison. We can feel it spreading up from our chest, from our heart area, throughout our arms, and up into our head, into our face. Our neck and shoulders, everything is covered, immersed in this child alter's pain. It spreads like poison, but at the same time it feels very healing because there is a release of energy in this child. I can feel them sighing. It's her now. It's a part of a child who is her, a she, releasing her energy. And she lets go and she goes to sleep. So now this child alter is going to go through a period of time in which she rests, sleeps inside the system where she's taken care of, before she awakens to recover from her trauma, physically and emotionally, mentally and spiritually, and then she will become one with us in integration. As you can see, this part started out as a them and then switched to a she, because a feminine part of that part came forward, but there are still masculine parts and neutral parts, as well as some feminine parts that are still stuck in the trauma. So we're going to release them one at a time. Some of them have blocks, so they're not going to be able to let go right now, but we will work with them and we will isolate them so that we can work with them one-on-one while still keeping them tethered to their whole system so they do not actually feel the bonds they've made with their system break. That would be very devastating to them and their psyches. So we're going to hold them all in the space of love, and we're going to find this place of connectivity inside where all parts of this child alter system connect. While some are already integrating and assimilating because the part was very small, we're going to have to deeply connect with all the alters from their points of connection to each other so that we can give love to all of them at the same time. That means we breathe in, we have to sit up straighter. We notice that there's some people that may come by, which makes us nervous, but we're going to continue this exercise anyway. We deeply and totally connect to our heart center, as that is the central point for these children. And like a tree, we can see an image inside of branches, uncoiling and spreading through our body as parts release more trauma. I can't explain the image, it just is. These parts are connecting with their sacred tree, is what they call it. It's the central axis of their system where they connect through from the heart chakra into the stomach and into our root. And they are deeply strengthening themselves. So the trunk of this tree is beginning to develop, meaning they're beginning to connect with other parts of themselves, with other systems. that were fragmented before. So we have a 3-year-old system in the heart, and then 2-year-old systems, and 1-year-old systems, and even infantile systems extending down below, like the trauma compiled on top of itself when it developed. Like the trauma started out in our root, in that area of our body, and then grew upwards, like stacked on top of itself. And so this tree was like a trauma tree. We always deeply connected with the images of trees. And so in this moment, actually what we're going to do is we're going to connect to the tree behind us and the trees around us. As you can see, there is one hanging right over our head. And we're going to ask that tree what comes up. These are the words that come up through these parts. As we are going to ask that tree for forgiveness for quote unquote raping our mom. Which means these parts are still identified with the perpetrated programming that told them they were responsible for the assaults, that they committed the assaults against her. And we're going to take the time to deeply connect with these parts and to feel the sadness and the grief, to feel their sadness and our sadness that they were made to believe that they had done such a thing, when all they did was be a victim, an innocent toddler victimized by perpetrative adults. We breathe into them and we show them that they are good. We mirror that light and we connect them to an infantile part of ourselves. And it looks like someone is not too happy over in the corner where we are. So we're going to give this a moment. Alright, that dude is leaving, so we can return to our healing process. Sorry about that. Can't control outside interruptions here. So we are feeling the sadness, and we are connecting these parts to an infantile part of them, a part of ourselves, the core of our being. She has a name which we won't say now for safety. We're connecting them to her. She is a little drop of love in their system, in the center of their beings. There are drops of her in every part of ourselves. She is who we were, the part of ourselves we preserved in infancy, during the mind control. And these parts start to see that they're good. They start to experience it directly. It is their reality now. The confusion subsides. The cognitive dissonance spiked at first as they saw who they really were in contrast to who they were made to believe, but it quickly dissipated as they recognized their true self to be them, and the shell of their false identity created in the perpetrated programming simply dissolves away. But it doesn't dissolve into nothing. It dissolves into that core infant part, which now means that these alters have higher consciousness. Even though they're still 3 in their outermost shells, they are deeply rooting into this infant part, and their minds are starting to expand and connect with ours, meaning that they're no longer toddlers anymore. They're starting to merge with us and become part of the adult system. So now we're starting to see them develop rapidly. They're growing 3, 4, 5, and 6 years old, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They're growing up into adult parts. And now they're becoming part of our consciousness. And now we're deeply connecting with them. And as adult parts, we hold their sadness. We are now one with them in co-consciousness, and some are integrating. And we now deeply root in our true self-identity, which is that we did not rape our mother. We did not hurt her. We did nothing to her. We were a victim of her abuse and her gaslighting, her mind flipping. But on a deeper level, we connect to the fact that we were in Monarch mind control, that our mother was a Monarch slave. And while we hold a lot of resentment and hatred towards her for what she did, in these parts, we are letting her go. In these parts, we are deeply releasing the trauma bond that we formed with her in infancy, that tells us that we were one, that tells us that we were one person and that we were responsible for what she did. Because these parts hold no hate, they only held confusion and fear. We don't feel the anger towards her, towards our mother. We feel the anger now in our adult consciousness towards the people who did this to her, the people who programmed her. And while parts of us in other systems protest to this because they hold her responsible, we in these parts are not going to take on any sense of her responsibility, any sense that she had responsibility, I mean to say. We're just going to let them go. We're just going to let those parts go that say our mother was responsible and focus instead on the healing and the grieving for what was done to her, because she was a Monarch child once. We breathe in because that was a lot. We remember where we are. We got triggered because somebody walked by and was looking at us. We didn't deem that person to be much of a threat, but it does frighten us to think others could hear. We let this all go. We let it deeply go. We hold space for the 6-year-old child in us who is afraid of someone hearing. We connect to the dissociative viewer systems that are watching all around us to see if anyone threatening is coming to shut us down before we say something they could hear. We connect to all of our defensive systems that are here to protect us right now while we do this healing process outside, because this is vulnerable and it is dangerous, but it is something that we have chosen to do. So while staying connected to the remaining child parts of that system, the toddler system we were healing, we also connect to our present moment parts who are frightened of what we are doing right now. And we connect to the childlike parts of ourselves that wanted to come out today and play, that wanted to come out and look at the pretty colors and look at the trees and the plants and the birds and connect to the present moment. We connect to every intention in ourselves. We notice people coming by. They're not coming our way. We just breathe. We realize that we're shaking, that our hands are shaking, because we are releasing trauma. So we're going to stop this video so that we can let the trauma flow out of our hands and fully release into the ground. It's going to flow out of us, and we're going to channel it into the earth. And then at the same time, we're going to draw healing energy from the trees to replenish ourselves. A similar practice to what we did in our video therapy last night. And then we're going to go find some water because we're very thirsty. And continue to ground. Thank you to anyone who's listening.